Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Well, happy Wednesday night, everyone. Welcome to the program. I am your host, Scotty Roberts. This is my show, the Intrepid radio program, right here on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. And you can find this show and the chat room there. If you are over in any other location viewing the show, such as, Facebook and the different channels we're on in there, or X, formerly Twitter. If you're in any of those, you're going to find that you can chat, but you can't chat directly with the main group, and they won't see you, and you won't see them. I can see you because I kind of run everything over here. Same with Patreon. You can go over to Patreon, you can leave comments, but you're not in the main chat room. So come on over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. And you'll find this show playing there already. And sign into the chat room and join us right here. It's Wednesday night. It's hump day. We're over the bulk of the week. Some days lately just feel like weekends to me all the time. I don't know what it is. All day today, I'm thinking it's Friday. But it's not Friday. It's Wednesday. And so we still got a couple of days to go. Tomorrow, Thursday. And then Friday after that, just like every week. I think it's the crazy holiday weekends we get. When we get those 4-day weekends, scuffs it all up. And my kids, their last 2 days of school before summer break, this Thursday and Friday. We had no snow days up here this year, which gave them the rare opportunity of getting out a little earlier than normal years, because we usually have 2 or 3 snow days. And so they don't have to go back after the weekend, which is kind of nice for them. I see somebody has messed with some of my dials. I was noticing my levels weren't going up as high, and then I saw somebody move that. Maybe it was me. I doubt it. So anyway, and here is one of the new Star Trek mugs. I redid the Captain Kirk mug. And there he is. Here, let's get it around. It's going to be, there we are. Going to get some reflection on there. But there's the new Captain Kirk mug. Some of you who follow my art on my social, you've seen this artwork before. The old Kirk art. And so I redid him. And there he is. And we also redid Spock. I had the old Spock on there from the very early episodes before they had the black collars, and he looked a little different, but this is the new Spock that I have done. And we also did him on a tumbler, and that light's reflecting, so it's a little hard to see it all, but there is Spock. And I've got way in the background, you can see his Vulcan harp is there along the broken seam on both sides of that. So that was fun to do. We just did a whole order of these going out to Russ for his Federation store in Ohio. And you can get them too. Go over to Rainey on Facebook, her 2 Loons tumblers. It's 2 with a T, with a T. 2 with a 2 numeral, 2 Loons tumblers. And you can see your stuff, and you can pick them up over there, or just message me over on my Facebook page, or my email, or anywhere you find me. And she's also got her Instagram page too. So here I raise a Kirk to you to take a quick swig. And we'll get to it here tonight. Good to have you all here. I'm glad you made it in. And there's a couple of things I want to talk about before we get to the posted topic, which is Go Woke, Go Broke, which is Disney too woke for its own good? We'll talk about wokeness, and we'll talk about Disney. We broached this topic a little bit on Sunday, and I said we're going to pick this up during the week and talk about this. for those of you who weren't here for the Sunday conversation. And Josh Kemp, as long as I just saw you there, we also, I'll show you the tumbler again here in a second, Robert. Professor, Josh Kemp, Rainey finished your tumblers as well. They're going to be out to you over the next day or so. She'll have them in the mail. So here it is. Now that I've got the big screen up, here is the new James Kirk tumbler. I finished that art a while back. I was doing it I created this piece of art for the coffee bags that I was working on with another company, and they did not choose to go with me in the final end. They had to use Paramount's approved style guide art, which didn't include mine. So there's the new Kirk, and he's sitting in his command chair, as you can see. And we've got the Enterprise schematic behind him, and the Enterprise zooming by. That's actually from Paramount's style guide. And same with that, the phaser. So there is Kirk. There is the new Kirk tumbler. I think this is better art than I had done the first time around. And here is Spock. If you missed it the first time around, here's the new Spock. I had the old version of Spock on it before, and you can kind of see way in the background there, very muted in the background, the Vulcan harp. You can see there his harp. And so there he is, the new Spock. So those are available through Two Loons Tumblers, Rainey's company. You're welcome, Josh. If I had him right here, if I had it sitting right here in my studio, I'd show it so you can see what you get over at Josh's site for his, and I think they're actually upstairs now, too. She brought them all upstairs for packaging. So I can't even run quick and grab one. So, I want to check one thing because I see a warning light. Is this playing over on my Facebook page? Is the show playing on Facebook? Yep, there it is. Okay, just wanted to make sure. There's a warning thing that said an error occurred for the Facebook page. So there we go. It's on. So everybody, thanks for being here. Thanks for giving me your time. I wanted to talk a little bit about this trial, and this is all off the top of my head. The Trump trial that is gone into deliberations, and it was interesting. I saw a very interesting take on the trials that is not political, but American, I think. And because we've got everybody wants to give their opinions on the Trump trial from a political perspective. Either you're for Trump and you think this is a travesty, or you are against Trump and you hope he gets convicted. And I do want to say this to any one of my friends out there, and you know who you are. We've had our conversations that are dead set. You got to see Trump in jail. I want to tell you one thing. That is bad business for America. You don't put the leading candidate, unless he's gone out and committed murder or something overt, you don't take a former president of the United States and put him on trial for misdemeanors that expired about 5 years ago, but they rigged it around so they could refile it as a felony offense, which the federal government had already turned down. That case said, there's nothing there. And so that's what this is all about. There's already also so many violations, I think, of the rights of the defendant. Is not our system of jurisprudence in the United States, our judicial system, built all around giving the benefit of the doubt to the accused, giving the benefit of the doubt to the defendant, making sure if you stretch anywhere, you stretch toward the defendant to enfold them in protection. And that our system of jurisprudence, which is so different than what we came out of when we founded this country, is based on it sounds so cliche now because we've said it so many times, but that the defendant is innocent until he is proven guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt in court. Now, you notice that doesn't really seem to count for minor things, county laws, city laws, traffic tickets, blah, 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 blah. And in this case, Steph just said it, guilty until proven guilty. Or as the whole system is turned around in this trial, guilty until he's able to prove himself innocent beyond a shadow of a doubt. That is the system of jurisprudence that existed. You remember I talked about Captain William Kidd, the famous pirate, how he was put on trial and he was railroaded. He lived here in America. He had a mansion on or big house on Wall Street in New York before it became the Wall Street we know today. It was still upper crusty. And he was conscripted, that's the wrong word, hired by the King of England in the late 1600s to be a privateer, to go out and commit legal piracy against ships that were against the British government, from countries against the British government. And the king was actually one of the signers. There were 4 investors that were very high up. And in order to protect their own butts, he got thrown into jail at the end, trumped up charges, and ended up getting convicted. And they took him back to England to try him. He got convicted. He got hung, as a matter of fact. And what happened? The rope broke. And we talked about this on the show once before. What happens when the rope broke by the old system? That's a sign from God that he is innocent. Well, they strung him up again. They actually did it 2 more times. He got strung up a 3rd time before it finally killed him. And so they were trying to, I just had one of my lights pop off. I'm not sure why. That's interesting. But maybe it overloaded something. That's better than the whole computer going down. I shouldn't have said that. So our system of jurisprudence was in part based on trials like his, where he was presumed guilty. He was guilty from the moment he was charged. And he had to then offer a defense to defend himself against the government's charge. And that's the way the whole system of jurisprudence worked. And when our country was founded, we said we are not going to operate under that. The law has been formed, and the legal system has progressed and developed and evolved to protect the individual, to protect those who are the accused. So much so as we'd rather have a guilty person go free than an innocent person be put away or executed. And so we always default in the favor of the defendant. The gag order against Trump, gag orders are usually there to protect the defendant from anybody else. Gag orders don't usually go on the defendant. They go on the prosecution. They go on witnesses. They go on whoever else. They're there to protect the defendant. In this case, the defendant was the only one with a gag order. And we can go down through a whole bullet-pointed list of things that have happened in this trial. There were witnesses that the defense have that the judge would not allow them because the judge said that they didn't need them. There were witnesses that, did you know that the prosecution kept establishing a case that this financial stuff that Trump did was illegal when it wasn't. It wasn't even illegal. And the most illegal form of it would have landed him with a misdemeanor if the statute of limitations hadn't run out 5 years ago. But they somehow resurrected that by bringing it into a federal charge. And which Alvin Bragg, the district attorney of New York State, does not have the power even to bring a federal charge. So all of this, And when the jury went out for deliberations, let me back up first. When they had people like Stormy Daniels testifying, there was no reason for her to testify. Her testimony was irrelevant. It was not germane to the case. It might have been the reason why certain things were done, that they were trying to prove Donald Trump had illegally paid her. But remember, it's not illegal to pay somebody hush money in the state of New York. To protect his family, to protect his business, to protect whatever. So it wasn't an illegal act to begin with. They brought her on and had her on for 2 days of testimony to do nothing but present salacious material to the country and to the jury. That's the only reason she was there. Cohen, a totally discredited witness. So we move on, and there were other people that were brought in to testify against what Cohen said, and the judge shut them down. Now this goes into deliberation, and the judge says to the jury, where it is normal, I don't know all the legalese for this. However, the judge said to the jury, you only have to find out of these 3 charges. You don't all have to unanimously agree to get a guilty plea. You can, all of you can have different levels of agreement on any one of these things. Like you could have 4 jurists on the one charge, 4 on the other, 4 on the third. And the judge would accept that as a unanimous guilty. And so it's usually you have a hung jury if the jury does not find a unanimous vote against the defendant. And so there is plenty of reasonable doubt in this, you could call it, that you would say right off the cuff that this should have been dismissed before it began. The judge should never have let this trial even go on, but he did. And his instruction to the jury, his final instructions to the jury, were the defense in their final summations to the jury. The defense for Trump couldn't say that by law, these charges, that what he did, if he did them, were not even illegal. They couldn't say that. The judge told them they could not say it. At one time, they slipped it out through the trial, and the judge stopped the trial and told the jury, you have to disregard that. But the prosecution was allowed to say to the jury in their summations and build a whole case that what Trump did was illegal when it wasn't. So there you see all these things have been built against Donald Trump. I'll be surprised if it gets anything better than a hung jury. And all you really need is one person not voting for any of those crimes for it to be a hung jury. They might surprise us all and all come out and say, you know what? He's not guilty of it, not guilty. They might do that. They did stop their deliberations today to send out a questionnaire to the judge to ask the judge to give them again, read out loud, Cohen's testimony and the testimony of the judge's final demands, not demands, his ruling to the jury, to tell the jury what they're supposed to do. And so they needed some clarity on some things. So that's either a good sign or a bad sign too. And so there's no reason to speculate until we get the final word in on this. But I'm going to tell you this, and this is what I started to say. This is not a political issue, although the trial is a political trial. The issue for the play, where any of you standing on this, whether you love Trump or hate Trump or anywhere in between, shouldn't have anything to do with whether you like Trump or dislike him. This whole thing should be on whether or not you stand for principle in America. There are people that want to see Trump found guilty of this, even if it's just to see him go to jail for 20 hours so they can put him on home arrest. or probation. They just want to see him in jail because they think it's going to pull him out of the election. But and if he gets convicted on a felony, then he can't run. And so he would have to appeal it right away. This is where a lot of people are saying we hope if this judge, if he's found guilty, that the Supreme Court steps in and rules on what's going on here. So, yeah, it has made, Josh Kemp, you're exactly right. This makes our system of jurisprudence look like somebody's trying to take out the leader of the opposition party. Professor Bauer says, when you depend on a convicted perjurer and a porn star as your case witnesses, you must have a corrupt judge and proceedings to have snowballs a chance in Hawaii. Exactly. And so this particular judge, I don't know how he's going to be able to carry on as a judge if there is a guilty plea, even if there's not, the way he has handled this trial. I'm no lawyer and I'm no legal expert, but I do know that what he has done and the way he has acted is transparently anti-Trump. And of course, he should have recused himself from the case because he and his wife are both donators to the Biden campaign, and his daughter was in charge of some kind of $93 million fund that was working against Trump. So it's unbelievable that he even remained in the case, that he did not recuse himself. So there's a reason he is there. And you know it. And that reason isn't just because his was the name that came up on the list as the judge to take this case. He's also been in charge of 2 other cases, fairly high profile, of people in the Trump organization and conservatives that have been found guilty of their things. So it's interesting. So, yeah, the daughter's making money off of this. The judge's daughter's making money off of this trial. So here's the deal for all of you who think Trump should be found guilty just because he's Trump and you don't like him. Think of the picture that creates for the rest of the world. The United States, the bastion of freedom in the world, and the whole world can see that they are trying to put him away because he is the political opponent of the party in power. The world sees it, especially after watching this trial. And I don't know how much exposure the jury, they weren't a sequestered jury, I do not believe. So they had access to information all the time. But I don't know if they were ordered to not watch the news or whatever in a high-profile case like this. But you got to think they got to know. And there's a couple of lawyers that are sitting on that jury. I saw one of these very high-profile financial investors. You've seen him on shows, if you ever watch it, shows like Shark Tank. I saw him make many comments on these trials that are going on. And just today made some comments on this. And he said exactly what I'm saying now. He said, this is all about everybody in this country, whether you like Trump or not, should be against the way this trial has gone because of the picture it creates of America in the rest of the world. And he says, you should be standing for the American brand. Don't stand for a party, stand for the brand of America. And so I encourage everybody out there who hears my voice on this, probably not many on my show that are leaning to the left, too far anyway, is that make sure that you aren't hoping that Trump gets convicted of this, because that is a travesty of justice, whether you like him or not, or think he should be not running for office or should go to jail for something because you dislike him. You can't have him go to jail for anything just to get him in jail. You have to stand on principle. This is, for me, and here's a good segue into our topic tonight, talking about the woke and the woke left and the woke progressives, wokeness in America. How can you be woke when you are not awake? You have to be somebody who is in attune with being awake, to look beyond what your political desires are to the greater good of what is right and what is wrong. There's some of you out there, I wish you were listening to me now. You know who you are. You're old friends of mine. And if by it so happens that you were here listening to this, you need to never. There was an old saying we had when I was in ministry, in my ministry days. And I used to tell my youth kids this when I was a youth pastor: never sacrifice the eternal on the altar of the immediate. Never sacrifice the eternal on the altar of the immediate. How can you apply that to this? Don't sacrifice what is best for this country, the goodness of this country, on the altar of the immediacy of wanting to see your political wokeism fulfilled. If you claim to be woke and are not awake enough to see this, you're not woke at all. You're not awake at all. So wake up. So wokeness. What is wokeness? All of you out there, you've all heard it. All heard what woke is. Let's look up a definition. What is woke? Woke. It's the past tense of wake. Well, it means something else. Here's a woke definition. One, aware of and actively attentive to important societal facts and issues, especially issues of racial and social justice. And they give some examples. But we'll only succeed if we reject the growing pressure to retreat into cynicism and hopelessness. We have a moral obligation to stay woke, take a stand and be active, challenging injustices and racism in our communities, and fighting hatred and discrimination wherever it rises. Barbara Lee said that. The word woke is often used in contexts that suggest someone's expressed beliefs about such matters are not backed with the same genuine concern or action. Then you have fake woke behavior arises. We put the hashtags on our social media. Hashtags like hashtag say your name. Hashtag I can't breathe. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. And repeat and rinse and repeat. And the problem is that the level of concern we express online doesn't match the everyday behavior we exhibit. Social justice warriors, keyboard warriors are the woke. Reflecting the attitudes of woke people is wokeism. So this is what woke is. What else is it? What else is it in a what is woke in our political system right now? It's a political slang. It's an adjective that's derived from African American vernacular English, and originally meaning alertness to racial prejudice and discrimination. And beginning in the 2010s, it came to encompass a broader awareness of social inequalities, such as racial injustice, sexism, denial of LGBTQ rights, etc., etc., etc. And woke has also been used as shorthand for some ideas of American left, involving identity politics, social justice, such as white privilege and reparations for slavery in the United States. The phrase "stay woke" has been present since the 1930s. And in some contexts, it referred to an awareness of social and political issues that were affecting African Americans. And the phrase was uttered in recordings from the mid-20th century and on. And it gained further popularity in the 2010s, and over time became increasingly connected to matters beyond race, such as gender, identities perceived as marginalized. So during the 2014 Ferguson protests, remember those? Ferguson, 10 years ago. Brown, what was his first name? Shot and killed. My hands are up or something. Remember that one? Don't shoot. The phrase was popularized by Black Lives Matter. They were activists who were seeking to raise awareness about police shootings of African Americans. After the term was used on Black Twitter, woke was increasingly used by white people, who often use it to signal their support for BLM. And some commentators criticized the usage as cultural appropriation. And the term became really popular with millennials and members of Generation Z. And its use spread internationally. And it made it into the Oxford English Dictionary in 2017. So by 2020, the term became a sarcastic pejorative among many on the political right and some centrists in Western countries, targeting various leftist progressive movements. Woke was seen as offensive by commentators who felt it disparaged advocates of identity and race-related ideologies. Subsequently, terms like woke washing and woke capitalism emerged to criticize those using social or political causes for financial or political gain rather than sincere commitment, and a phenomenon often referred to as performative activism. And this goes on. The definition, we could go on for quite a long time, going through all the different usages of it, but it became a thing where it became a almost a cult of personality in and of itself. It's, if you are not woke, you obviously don't know anything. Or you are, I get called so many things, I'm a cultist because I support Trump, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I tell people, sometimes I just say something. I'm not even talking about Trump or supporting him. Because of what I say, people go, oh, you're just one of those woke Trumpers, and lots of expletives wrapped around it. Professor Bauer says, woke is what people who've been told what to think become. They don't think for themselves. Yeah, it's like a little thing I put up the other day. I've got this little thing called what is it? This little political thing that I do. Why I can't think, because I'm on a totally different topic. I'm not thinking of what I call it, but I put up these little memes, and I talk about things that are really anti-woke. And I put up one the other day, and I said, yes, I am a member of a cult. I work very hard to brainwash you to think for yourself. That's the cult I'm in. And so Steph says, BLM, and how much of those millions did they put into black communities, schools, and programs? Can you name one place it went to? How it was helped by it? I know that they bought lots of mansions for the higher-ups in Black Lives Matter. So once you wake, you can never go woke, said Sean Stroik. Amen, Sean. Once you awake, you can never go woke. And that is a fact. They need to wake and bake before they go woke and broke. Hence the title of tonight's show. If you missed the graphic, there it is. Go woke, or go broke. Is Disney too woke for its own good? And I'm only focusing on Disney with this because we were doing this the other day. We were talking about the whole Disney thing. And I've got a couple of things in front of me, a bunch of things in front of me, actually. I don't even know where to start. But I wanted to talk a little bit about Disney and whether or not their wokeism has caused some of their current financial crisis. And of course, you see things from the other side that totally discolor it. And by the way, there was something else I was going to hit tonight before I got to any of this woke stuff. And I totally forgot about it and went right by it. 30 things all boomer kids did back in the good old days. Professor Bauer, you could recognize some of these. And and so could many of us, the other people that are in here. We'll cover these tomorrow or Friday when I get into the show. I'll talk about things. Just the first one on the list, hitchhiking was acceptable method of transportation for young girls and young boys, not kids, teenagers. So that's one of the things we did as boomers back when we were growing up. So, but let me move on into Disney, $1 billion casualty of woke. And we talked about some of this on Sunday morning, but the Walt Disney Company is in deep trouble. Its last 4 high-profile releases bombed at the box office, losing over $1 billion between the 4 of them. And once Hollywood's most successful film studio, Disney, was dethroned last year by Universal Pictures. And the reason for Disney's decline? It's gone woke to an almost comical degree. Now, I want to put in a disclaimer here before I go much further with this, because I've always been a lover of Disney and everything Disney. I raised my older twin daughters were raised as Disney kids. My son Sam, not quite as much as they were, but still a Disney kid. But my older daughters, they got into doing their Mermaid Tale stuff because of the influence, I'm sure, of all the creativity that we shared from Disney. And I remember standing at Disney World 2 years ago with my older daughters, my twins, who took us, the whole family, to Disney World 2 years ago. And the closing show, one of the nights, they had the fireworks and they take the Cinderella castle and they project up on the Cinderella castle. And they have music on speakers that are amazing for covering that whole ground as you're watching the castle. And we were far enough away that we were like looking up at the castle. We were like looking at a movie theater. It was out there, and it was beautiful. And it went through this whole montage of music from the Disney movies, animated movies, and other movies of theirs. This incredible half-hour-long montage of bits and pieces of all these songs. And I stood there with my twins, one on each arm, and the rest of my kids and Rainey, they were all standing there too, but this was really a special moment for the 3 of us. And because from the time they were, a year to 2 years old, they were watching things like The Little Mermaid, The Lion King, Aladdin, Hercules, all these movies, these older movies have animated and up through the years. And we stood there, and I sat and cried, not blubbering crying, just tears in my eyes through this whole thing, because it reminded me so much of how my kids grew up, and them too, and made them the kind of people they are today. It was part of the whole kettle of fish of growing up in our house. And so it was very moving. And I say that only to say that I don't have a deep set problem with Disney. I've always liked Disney. It's always been a part of my family's life in one form or another. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have my problems with their political stances and the stances they take in public. The wokeism especially when it came to the things that Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, told them, look, if you want to keep standing on politics, we're going to yank your tax-free status. And they did. So that's my disclaimer as I start to get into this. So the reason for Disney's decline, it went woke. Last year, the company admitted to its investors that there was a growing misalignment between Disney's output and public and consumer tastes. Get that? Get that? This is a company that's there for one reason. Well, to entertain. You can say there's an esoteric reason that they're there to entertain. Something like Disney always starts out of good causes, but they want to make money at it too. It's like it would be like on a very, very small level, like this show. I do the show because I love it and I want to dispense good information and have a good time and make friends. It'd be nice to make a living off of it, but it's a totally different model, obviously. But imagine what this show could be if this were my living, if this is what I did for a living. So Disney has a right to make money. I got no beef with them for wanting to make money. That's the bottom line. And if you ever look at Disney's corporate report, I've mentioned this before. I went down and interviewed at Disney for a creative director position for the internal ad agency for their travel branch of Disney and the Big Red Boat and their cruise ships. And so, but when I was down there, I was handed one of their annual reports. Thing was about an inch and a half thick, full color, beautiful book. It was in the hotel room, and all the companies Disney owns. It's like at the time there were Christian organizations that were boycotting Disney through some of the churches. The Focus on the Family, James Dobson people were leading that because of the gay infiltration into the hierarchy at Disney and the things they were doing, and et cetera, et cetera. I don't remember the whole thing. I was against it, the boycott, but I came back and I said, you can't boycott Disney. Disney owns the world, practically. You would not believe the companies that were listed in this annual report, just down to little local gas stations, a little gas station chain in Minnesota. It's owned by a corporation that's owned by Disney. Things like that. If on total gas stations it was. That was 25 years ago. So looking at this, you can say the Walt Disney Company is in deep trouble right now because of their wokeism. A misalignment between Disney's output and public consumer tastes and preferences for entertainment. Consumers' perceptions of Disney's position on matters of public interest, Disney said, are risking the company's reputation and profits. So viewing figures and box office sales spell this out clearly. Audiences are growing sick of the woke slop that Disney has been serving them. And they're tired with scripts that are weighed down by clunky political messaging. They're fed up with the storylines being mangled to fit progressive narratives. They're irked by Disney's desire to lecture them instead of entertain them. And so even Disney franchises that were once guaranteed money makers have struggled to excite audiences, like Marvel Studios, all the Marvel movies, which is owned by Disney. And it's used to regularly break box office records with its billion-dollar superhero films. And as recently as 2019, Avengers Endgame became the second highest grossing movie of all time. I'm just curious when I say that, who was the first grossing movie of all time? Anybody want to wager a guess before I find it here? What was the highest grossing movie of all time? I'm just giving you a second. Well, when adjusted for inflation, Gone with the Wind in 1939 is often considered the single most successful film of all time, grossing between $3 and $4 billion in 1939, and including re-releases. But you move on. Right now, the top 4 ranked films of all time beyond Gone with the Wind. Number 1, Avatar in 2009. Number 2, Avengers Endgame in 2019. Number 3, Avatar, The Way of Water in 2022. And then number 4, Titanic from 1997. Those are the 4 top grossing movies in the 21st century anyway. Well, almost. Titanic was the end of the 20th. So those were the top grossing movies. But so their billion-dollar superhero films, Marvel registered its worst ever year at the box office last year, even though 2019's Avengers Endgame was the second highest grossing movie of all time, just a few years earlier. Its biggest flop last year at Disney was The Marvels, which failed to break even. One reason it probably did so badly was that it features none of the characters that audiences were most familiar with. Instead of beloved, well-established heroes like Captain America and Iron Man, the Marvels focused on an ensemble cast of mainly diverse newcomers. So we follow the adventures of Ms. Marvel, a Muslim teen superhero from the Ms. Marvel TV miniseries, and Monica Rambeau, a black female side character from the WandaVision miniseries. By the way, I just saw an article here pass up through in front of my mind. J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling, a witch who refuses to burn. We're gonna have to look at J.K. Rowling and her stand, which is very unwoke, but very awake. Now, practically all new Disney films place this huge emphasis on this kind of diversity casting. Carrie Burke, president of Disney's General Entertainment Content Division, said in a leaked video in 2022 that she wants 50% of all Disney characters to be either LGBTQ or from an ethnic minority background. Now, Disney Television Animation executive producer Latoya Ravenel has similarly said she is adding queerness wherever she can to shows that she oversees. Not overseas shows she is in charge of. And so no one's against diverse characters, by the way. I'm not either. Like any other character, they just need to be compelling and have depth. But all too often their inclusion in Disney productions feels more like a ticket box exercise to meet Carrie Burke's quota. And meanwhile, they often come at the cost of other more familiar faces. It's as if these diverse characters are only on screen to send a message to remind the public that diversity is our strength, and rather than drive the plot forward or engage the audience. And often these characters are also actively grating. Captain Marvel, the new Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel used to be a guy, but Captain Marvel, the woman character, played by Brie Larson, is supposed to be the main draw of the Marvels. She even starred in her own film, Captain Marvel, back in 2019. But like so many female protagonists these days, she's the stereotypical girl boss. She comes across as smug and condescending. She beats enemies with ease and brags about her powers. And perhaps Disney's most egregious use, and we talked about this on Sunday, of the girl boss trope was She-Hulk, attorney at law. And now this Disney series follows a Hulk-type character, except as the title suggests, she's a woman and a lawyer. She's a strong female character who delivers lectures about why catcalling is bad. And to the surprise of precisely no one, She-Hulk went down like a cup of cold sick with many Marvel diehards. And so it seems the public aren't particularly interested in watching these unfamiliar characters talking down to them for 100+ minutes. nor are they going to invest hours of their precious time in the endless TV spin-offs on Disney Plus if they suspect that these series are just lectures in disguise. Disney's Pixar, the studio behind great films, the Toy Story films, the Monsters Inc. films, the biggest animation hits of the modern era, is now awash with identity politics too. Even when its output isn't excessively preachy, it still seems to trumpet diversity at the expense of good storytelling. Don't preach at me if you're not going to give me a good story. So take its 2023 movie, just last year, Elemental. I haven't even seen this movie all the way through, but I saw Rainey watching it with Ellery a couple of months back. So what's this? Good animation. Elemental, the worst performing release in Pixar's entire history. It tells the story of a fire character and a water character. Elemental. The characters are elementals. And they fall in love. Fire and water. And the film is inoffensive enough, even if its subtext is about overcoming racism. And that's not all that subtle. What executives were most proud of, however, was the fact that Elemental contained Disney's first non-binary character, a lake who wears earrings, goes by they and them as pronouns, and is voiced by a non-binary actor. The character called Lake Ripple is such a small part of the film that they don't even appear in the end credits. But they were still everywhere in the film's marketing and media campaign. Studio executives seem to imagine that the public is constantly clamoring for yet more diversity firsts. Or perhaps they're shamelessly using them to generate more publicity. Either way, it's clear that it isn't a winning strategy. Sorry, it's just not. Disney's preoccupation with diversity can often feel like an attempt to distract from its otherwise pedestrian output. Its 2023 live-action remake of The Little Mermaid, in which black actress Halle Bailey was cast as Ariel. That's another case in point. Although some might have seen this blockbuster remake as a sad day for redhead representation, most members of the public were distinctly unbothered by the prospect of a black Ariel. Once again, few people are opposed to diverse casting in and of itself. Predictably, though, there were some tedious woke additions to the remake, including new lyrics in Kiss the Girl. We talked about that on Sunday. Remember that movie? There you see her, sitting there across the way. She don't got a lot to say, but there's something about her. Oh, you don't know why, but you're dying to try. You wanna kiss the girl. Sing it with me now. Sha-la-la-la-la-la, my oh my, look like the boy too shy, ain't gonna kiss the girl. Sha-la-la-la-la-la, ain't that sad? What a shame, too bad. He gonna miss the girl. So that song was rewritten. Why? It's emphasizing the importance of consent in the new version of the song. But the film's main problem was that it was boring and uninspired. Might have been fun to watch. It was kind of like, I don't know, being a Star Trek fan and watching Star Trek the Motion Picture back in 1979 when it came out. 12 years since the show had gone off air. You're watching that film, you're like, oh, this is Star Trek, like for grown-ups now on a big screen. Boring as shit. Good story concept, but it was an episode in length, not a 2-hour movie in length. And so even a movie that people want to see and that they're okay with overall can go down in flames. It did not do real well. It did well because it was Star Trek. But The Little Mermaid performed worse than expected when it hit the screens in 2023, barely breaking even. No amount of diversity hype can make up for a dull film. Snow White was the next one up, and that got cut. They cut Snow White, or they moved it way out. Why? They moved it way out because the lead actress, Rachel Zegler, used every opportunity to trash the source material, the fairy tale of Snow White, as sexist and outdated. She called the film's love story weird and accused Prince Charming of having literally stalked, quote unquote, literally stalked Snow White. And Zegler claims that this new updated version will focus less on romance and true love, more on women being in roles of power. And while this might sound really thrilling to women's studies graduates, what about the young girls film is supposed to appeal to? What about the young girls the film is supposed to appeal to? And what about the adults who feel nostalgic for the original? And by the way, I just watched the original with Ellie wanted to see it. And over the weekend, Rainey and Ellie and I watched it while the two older kids are out doing their own thing. It was a masterpiece of art. It bored me, Frank. I'll be honest. It did the first time I saw it too. But it's still a masterpiece. It's a classic of art. You realize that movie is almost 90 years old, that original one. But what about the adults who felt nostalgic for the original? Zegler's essentially branded their tastes as bigoted and backward. Now, I didn't get bigoted and backward from the 1931. Was it 31? Is that when Snow White came out? The original? Listening to her interviews, you get the distinct impression that Disney now loathes its canon and its audience. Time and again, Disney's gone out of its way to alienate and insult the core fan bases of its franchises. After Disney acquired Lucasfilm Studios in 2012, Star Wars fans feared the franchise was about to be given a feminist progressive makeover. And Disney executive Kathleen Kennedy was even pictured wearing a t-shirt saying the Force is female, whatever the hell that means. And there's some new director that's a woman who is very much a Me Too type, made some announcement last fall that coming to the helm, she's going to make the first truly feminist Star Wars film, whatever the hell that means. But The Force Awakens, Disney's first Star Wars film, performed well when it came out in 2015. But as the rest of the new Disney trilogy dragged on, the box office numbers trailed off. And meanwhile, some of the spin-off movies and series also fared poorly with audiences. The only thing many of the new movies had to shout about is their diverse casting. Now, I will say, I really enjoyed Kenobi, the 8-part miniseries that came out 2-3 years ago now, with Ewan McGregor reprising his role as Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's the hidden years from the end of the first Star Wars trilogy to the beginning of, it's really from the end of the Luke and Leia are born, but then it picks up all that empty time. You don't know anything about what happened to Kenobi over that next 18 years. And 15 years, something like that. Luke was supposed to be about 18, I think, in the first movie. So it's very good. I really enjoyed that series. But when fans made their displeasure known about Star Wars, they were dismissed as bigots and trolls. Weird guys. The Star Wars cast and crew got into a bizarre war of words with sections of the franchise in 2018 after Kelly Marie Tran, who played Rose Tico in The Last Jedi, left social media following alleged trolling by fans, something Ryan Johnson, director of The Last Jedi, blamed on the man babies among Star Wars audience upset with its new direction. You don't want to insult your fan base. So when Disney isn't infuriating its own audience, it's canceling its own actors. In 2021, 3 years ago, Gina Carano, who starred in the Star Wars spin-off series The Mandalorian. She was a minor character in that. She was the former wrestler, and she shared an Instagram story comparing being a Republican in the 21st century America to being Jewish during the Holocaust. And Carano was almost immediately fired by Disney for denigrating people based on their cultural and religious identities. The comparison was in poor taste for sure. But to smear Carano as an anti-Semite, not least when Hollywood A-listeners had spent most of the previous few years comparing Trump's America to Nazi Germany, was both wrong and outrageously hypocritical. Carano maintains the real reason she was fired was because she is an outspoken conservative who has mocked woke practices like stating preferred pronouns. She's now suing Disney for wrongful termination and is being backed in her fight by Elon Musk. Now, there's some talk that Disney's going to invite her back. I don't know. I got to take a drink. So Disney has even taken to making political interventions out in the real world. Since 2022, home to Disney's biggest theme park and resort, the Walt Disney Company has been locked in a fierce battle with Governor Ron DeSantis over something entirely unrelated to Disney's business interests, namely the place of transgender ideology in schools. So DeSantis, his Parental Rights in Education Act bans classroom instruction on issues of sexual orientation or gender identity for school kids under the age of 10. That's the Don't Say Gay bill the leftists all called it. It wasn't Don't Say Gay. It was that you can't teach some of this stuff to kids in the 4th grade and under. So Disney, apparently outraged by the prospect of preteens being denied an indoctrination into gender identity ideology, pledged to donate $5 million to organizations opposing the law. And in retaliation, DeSantis revoked the special tax status that the Walt Disney World Resort has enjoyed since the 1960s. And might I say, rightfully so. Now, not only did this spat cost Disney its tax breaks, it also damaged its image as a family-friendly company. Most parents agreed with DeSantis that gender ideology is an inappropriate subject for under 10-year-olds. And they were baffled that Disney would say otherwise. And so after the skirmish with DeSantis, Disney's approval rating among Americans tumbled by more than 25 percentage points. And so the woes facing Disney illustrate the powerful hold that wokeness now has on these big corporations. It's as if Disney leaders felt compelled to toe the line on the identitarian agenda. And they were prepared to trash the company's reputation and alienate its fans, seemingly just to signal their allegiance to this new elite ideology. And so perhaps those billion-dollar losses will finally break the spell. But Disney lost billions of dollars over that whole mess. So I saw some interesting stuff here on this about is Disney going broke after becoming woke? Ted Cruz, senator, said Disney has embodied the phrase "go woke, go broke." And it's in its annual fiscal report released on September 30th of last year, Disney expressed concern over how the company's political stances are affecting profitability margins. Now, this is a quote. We face risks relating to misalignment with public and consumer tastes and preferences for entertainment, travel, and consumer products, the annual Securities and Exchange Commission report stated. And the report added that revenues and profitability can be negatively impacted if the company's offerings do not achieve sufficient consumer acceptance. See, it's all about pleasing your consumers. But what Disney did was they took a political mindset and elevated that to the status saying this is all of America, and it's not by far. So further consumers' perceptions of our position on matters of public interest, including our efforts to achieve certain of our environmental and social goals, often differ widely and present risks to our reputation and brands, the SEC filing stated. And Senator Ted Cruz from Texas, on his Verdict podcast, called the disclosures stunning, adding, because what that means is, number one, Disney has lost billions of dollars. The phrase "go woke, go broke," Disney has sadly embodied that phrase. And so the company's received criticism from conservatives in recent years, taking partisan stances, using movies geared toward children to further the ideas of diversity and gender and sexual identity in recent years. And one of Disney's most controversial movies was released on this day in history. Do you know what that controversial movie was? Anybody know? Fantasia. November 13th, 1940. Was a controversial movie. And it was the beginning of the company's journey in navigating the waters of various public relations problems. And I don't want to get into that. That's a topic all on its own, looking at that one. But this is what Disney is facing. So as the Walt Disney Company has made some head-scratching decisions with its movies over the years, it's been wondered when the company first started to deal with these various responses to its films. The company's movie reviews confirm that negative reviews are not just a recent occurrence. The release of Fantasia on November 13th, 1940, was the beginning of the company's journey in navigating the waters of various public relations problems. And on and on and on that goes. Let's see, I got to find my where I left off here. In a totally different place here. I just shut down Windows and stuff like that. Here we go. And so we've got more in this medium than making people laugh, Disney reportedly told his staff, while further elaborating that Fantasia would change the history of motion pictures. That was what he had to say about it. But polls showcase this partisan disapproval. Republicans said they had more negative feelings toward Disney, according to an Axios survey from earlier this year. And Mark, something playing in the background. I have no idea what it is. Something popped up. That's not it. Trying to find it. That's something playing somewhere, and I don't know where it is. Oh, there it is. Phew. Sorry about that. I don't know if that was playing over the airwaves, so you probably couldn't hear it. So, let's see. I got to see where I even left off with all this. Yeah, I'm right here. Yeah, it's talking about Ziegler again from the new Snow White film. She's playing Snow White in this live action remake that I talked about. They've received pushback for criticizing the storyline of the original. I just mean it's no longer 1937, Zegler told Variety. She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's going to be dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and that her late father told her she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. None of those, not admirable qualities. But Disney received pushback over a portrayal of the Seven Dwarves and their politically correct leading actress, as the Los Angeles Times reported. Amid the Hollywood actors' strike, the film's release was ultimately postponed to March of 2025, a year later than the original date, if it even makes it there. And did you know one of the big things is that they're not actually using dwarves to play any of the seven dwarves in the movie? It's interesting. I don't know. So I could go on because I've got 10 other things we could bring up, but I also want to open this up to you guys. We can talk about this. Let's take about a 2-minute break here, something like that. And we'll come back with the captain's cabin and we'll discuss this a little more. We don't have a radio audience to let go. So all of you, just sit tight. Don't go anywhere. This is just a little break, just to give us a breather. Go to the bathroom, get a drink, do whatever you're going to do. So we'll be right back.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Hey folks, this is Scotty Roberts, and this is the Intrepid radio broadcast. I've been broadcasting for about 20 years now, covering such topics as science, politics, the paranormal, weird science, weird world history, archaeology, and the paranormal. Everything from ghosts to cryptids to creepy things that go bump in the night. So every week I bring you 3 new episodes. Come and join my channel and also be a patron to this site. So see the details below, and we'll see you here. Dave, I love you, brother.
I miss you too.
I miss you too, I heard.
Yep,
Did you guys hear that?
I heard that.
I miss you, Dave. And welcome to the captain's cabin, y'all, ya lubbers. Climb the mizzen mast. So, how are you doing tonight? Glad that you stuck around for the captain's cabin. This is our after show, and so welcome to it. This is where you can call in. Well, you can actually call in during the main show now, since we're not broadcasting on radio right now. But we don't have that handicap that we had before. But we still kind of save it for the captain's cabin. But if you want to call into the show, you certainly can by going to this link that I'm pasting over in the chat room right now. So if you see that link, you can copy that link or click on it and come on over, and I'll see you down below, and I'll call you in. And by the way, folks, I do want to mention, if you want to become a patron to this site over on my YouTube channel, go down below the window here. You'll see the little join button. Just click on that. And it'll give you 3 ways. You can become not just a subscriber, but a member of this channel. And that helps us here. So click on that button and make yourself a permanent member. And let's see, what else have I got? Anything else I need to talk about before we just kind of move forward? I see Professor Bauer is hanging in the wings. We're going to bring him in just a few seconds here. And I thought there was one other thing I needed to mention. And it escapes me. I cannot think of what it is. There's so much that goes on in my head these days. So we'll just move on. So welcome to the program, Professor Bauer. Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you as well, and it's good to be seen.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. What's going on? What's on your mind? What's going on?
I bring good tidings of great joy and future forecasting on the topic that you have so eloquently espoused this evening about all of this ideology, mental parasite, mental disorder, and illness that's been going on. Because we've all seen it, we've all been through it. We've been pummeled by it for going on 4 to 5 years in earnest. And watching it self-implode because of under the weight of its own stupidity and idiocy.
Yes.
All of these kidiots that are promoting and pushing all of this crap are actually becoming to the realization that this is not only strange and antithetical to the way that we think and we function, but they're pushing back. And what's interesting, and from my research and what I'm seeing, is that it seems to be young men in particular that are providing the greatest pushback for all of this bullshit that all these other people have been pushing. And it doesn't matter what part of the societal infrastructure you're talking about. We're covering Disney and the entertainment sector, but this is going on in corporate America, not only entertainment. It's going on in academia. It's going on in the judicial system, your first part of the show where you were ranting on about the complete absurdity that's going on in our judicial system. So, I mean, we're getting pummeled from every known place that we all have to inhabit and navigate as we try to be productive members in society. And it's falling apart everywhere.
It is.
Just the last week, there was somewhere around 15 different scholastic academic institutions who have completely dismantled their DEI departments.
Okay. Yes, I have seen that.
So we're seeing, it's the typical thing when you get into the extremes of any given topic and ideology and thought worm. Swings all the way over to one side too far, and then it kind of swings back because of the natural motion and momentum of the way that these things ebb and flow.
Yes. By the way, here's Jason, and I got to say, I'm very sure he looked up and saw you on here and went, I'm not there. Oh, this will not do.
This cannot proceed without.
Will not do.
He has to have a filibuster moment, and I will try to ensure that doesn't happen sooner than later.
And just in case anybody's wondering, no, I haven't retired a human by mistake.
Oh, there you go. Yes. Oh, and by the way, we got a little echo coming from you, I do believe.
Yeah, hang on. Let me...
It's all right. Oh, wait, maybe it isn't. Is it you, Professor, by any chance?
Do I sound or feel?
We got a little feedback, and when he went silent, I still heard it.
Are you hearing me now? Are you hearing it?
I'm hearing my voice echoing a little bit.
Let me turn on the echo cancellation. Hold on.
I do not think that it's.
How is that? Is that any better?
That is better. There we go. Well, but JP's gone now.
So, well, he's an echo in his own mind anyway. So
he might be rebooting something.
He's got his own echo chamber.
Yes.
But the point I really want to get across is that the frustration that we've all been dealing with and been subjected to, the enormity of the amount of just complete cognitive disconnect. It's not even dissonance anymore.
Yeah.
There is a disconnect in the way that the neurons and the synapses have been connecting or disconnecting and firing and so forth. And it's been because, in my opinion, you guys have heard me rant on ad nauseum about the whole curated narrative. It's been carefully crafted and curated, and it's been tossed into the conversation to create chaos and confusion in the mind.
Yes.
Because none of these things, if you spend any modicum of time looking at any of these, whether it's the identity stuff, the ethnicity stuff, the race stuff, the inclusion, the diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is really didn't earn it. You look at what's happened is we've replaced meritocracy with mediocrity.
Yes.
And it's been given a normalization across the minds of people who now, and one of the other things that I saw to kind of support the point about this implosion is that the Gen Zs folks,
yes,
they are not being hired. And they're not being hired because they either don't show up or they show up and they look at everything and go, oh, this is too hard.
I was left alone to man the counters here at the coffee shop for an hour because no one was here. And it got so overwhelming. I didn't know what to do. I was ready to walk out and just go home.
Are you referencing the young lady that was talking about how she was having to work all that time and stuff like that?
That was actually a young man, that one. But
okay. Because I was going to say there was one where there was a young gal who was kind of talking about the same thing, but she was more complaining about the and all the clips of her whole video that you would see. Which the clips made it very much look like she was bitching about just having to work 9 hours. But when you watch the entirety of the video, she is talking about, I got to work 8 to 9 hours a day, most of the week. My commute, because the only place I can get a house where I can afford to live there is, it leads to an hour-long metro ride out to her job. And then she ends up a lot of times having to work overtime because of other things going on with the business, work that needs to be done. How do you expect anyone to have a life and be able to enjoy life and pursue things like a meaningful relationship to where they can share responsibilities and all of those things. And it was actually a very, very valid argument that she was making.
When she
And
has
it's
to work
something
a
that
full-time job,
hold on.
hold
Let
on,
me
hold
just
she got
on,
married
hold
to
on.
working a job like
Wait,
that.
wait, hold on, Professor, is this going to be the great revelation?
Oh no, that's later. That's later. You have to take it.
Don't want to hear about it.
Here's the problem, JP, with what you were just talking about, in my opinion, in my observation. And it goes back to one of my regular rants, which is language. The whole idea of what is a life, what is a relationship, what is a job, what is work, what is love.
Well, we already know that you do the whole like not in a relationship, polyamory, free spirit thing anyway.
All of it has been. All of
you
it's
don't
been
apply to standard.
No. Well, see, that's the problem. All of it's been mangled and manipulated and polluted and poisoned to the degree where nobody understands what those things mean anymore. There's so many different definitions. There's so many different delineations and distinctions that have been hoisted and foisted upon the fools and the foolish that they have adopted. This goes back to one of my other rants. The last 30 years, this education system has changed how to think into what to think. And that's what we're seeing.
Blame the KGB.
That's the way we're seeing it across all these different.
Blame the KGB. Yuri Bedmanov told us this would happen 40 years ago. So, you know.
Well, anyway, so what's happened is they've done such a poor job at executing an interesting plan. I'll give them a B, maybe a B minus in the strategy of trying to create chaos in the communities and the conversation and in the consciousness. They've about a B minus. But the problem is the people that implement and go after these things have extremely poor understanding of systems and processes. They just have a goal and they jump right to it. They don't think it through. Yeah. So it's clear that, for example, in the judicial nonsense that's going on right now that we're seeing spread across this one individual who shall not be named.
Oh,
I mean, you look at that stuff and you go, I am going to remove what I think or feel about the individual. I'm just going to look at the system and the process. What is happening here? And there is no rhyme, reason, logic. There's just lunacy.
None.
Because it is, people say, a lot of the folks that have gotten into the ideology of the progressive neo-lib, whatever they are, they push things like, well, the Supreme Court's got problems. Oh, or we've got corrupt Department of Justice. Oh, we've got corrupt judges. Oh, we got DAs. We got all these people that are causing.
They're not wrong, though.
Well, what I'm agreeing with it. What I'm saying is, what they're seeing is it's not the system that's broke; it's the people in the system.
Right? No, the system.
If the system was followed by the way it was designed, our Constitution,
optimally equipped with the right,
our Bill of Rights, our articles, all of if those things were followed,
it would function very well.
We wouldn't have half, if not less, of the crap that we're seeing across the political spectrum, the judicial spectrum, even the financial system.
That actually brings up a discussion that I've been having on, of all people, Scotty, you'll definitely appreciate this. Prof, you might. But Robert Picardo.
Yeah.
The holographic, the emergency holographic medical.
The
EMH.
Voyager. Next generation.
Voyager.
Yeah, the emergency medical holograph program.
Yeah.
So he had posted something of some retired Navy senior chief saying he was a Vietnam vet, and Trump called all the Vietnam vets losers and called everybody suckers and everything like that, when the losers and suckers thing is actually attributed to statements he allegedly made at the memorial for everybody regarding Belleau Wood.
Everybody who was there denied ever hearing it.
Marine Corps veteran friend of mine.
And the folks that were there all denied ever hearing it.
Right, except for the one dude who leaked something. Anyways, So I get into this discussion with this guy, and he goes down this whole thing about, well, he lied about this thing, and then he turned around not even an hour later and then lied to the media. And my argument is like, look, he lied. That's wrong. Whatever. If he did, that's wrong, right? And that should be taken as, hey, that's not right.
Right.
And somebody should be held accountable, or at least called out on it. And in a perfect world, the person who does that would sit there and say, you know what? You're right. I did. And I'm sorry. It was the wrong thing to do. Perfect world, but it's not a perfect world. But the topic of fallibility came up. And this guy presented such a narrow definition of fallibility that it was absurd, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of those things when you look at the fallibility of the people within the system. That's the problem. The system may be as near as perfect as you can get in a human world. The people in it are fallible, and therefore they are subject to making mistakes, making poor decisions, being immoral, doing all of those things, being human. And we went back and forth over the last day and a half about things like fallibility and lying with politicians. And he just focuses on Trump's lying. And it's like, look, I challenge you to go into your own party or whoever political heroes you vote for into elected office. And I challenge you to find every time they have misspoke, misstepped, said something in a manner that was not exactly forthright, but not quite lying, the half-truths or the twists, the turns to be politically expedient, and things like that. And I told him before I hopped on here, I finished talking with it. I was like, I'm done with this. I got things I got to take care of. But if you want to continue this discussion tomorrow, I fully expect you to have a laundry list of political people on your side of things that you support, and a detailed list broken down where they have made every misstep, every misspeaking, every little white lie, every little twisting of the truth or obscuring of the facts, and with the same level of categorization that you've presented. And people get into this whole thing where they get stuck on just one aspect.
Yes.
And they only focus on that. They don't look at the whole picture. They don't look at both sides. They don't acknowledge the fallibility of the other side, being human on the other side, and they only use it against the people that they don't like. Anything less, anything less than admitting that, yes, you do this is complete and utter hypocrisy and dishonest.
I've got a good example of this from a little different twist on it. And again, this is from George Takei's Instagram. And I love looking at his Instagram. I've had his own sycophant say, well, why are you here if you don't like anything he says? I said, because I like to inform myself of what he's thinking, what people like him are thinking. I said, when I first joined his page, he wasn't as politically outspoken 15 years ago, whatever it was, 12 years ago. Right. And I said, now I've just stayed for the entertainment of the left.
And he used to say some pretty funny shit.
He does. And he put up this post yesterday. In the past few months, Republicans have accused Joe Biden of being confused and incoherent, arguing that he's aging badly. Yet his State of the Union address disproves any of these claims. He is a high-functioning elderly president. All of this focus on Biden's age has distracted commentators and reporters from the obvious decline in Trump's function. Trump's brain is not okay. All right, that's the post he put up. And I know he's going off of Robert Hur's, the special counsel looking into Biden, and he said, we're not going to hold Biden. We're not going to prosecute him over the documents issue because I found him to be incoherent, an old man, can't keep cogent thoughts, etc., and it's just not worth doing.
Right.
He said we aren't saying he's not guilty of it. or not prosecutable. We're just not going to prosecute.
Well, he went so far as to say that in a trial that a jury would take pity on him and wouldn't convict him anyway. So you know,
I said in response to George, which not that he's ever going to see it, but the first thing I pointed out, I said, this post of yours, George, is what I'd classify as pure Alinskyism in its truest form. Saul Alinsky wrote the book Rules for Radicals, a pragmatic primer for realistic radicals, back in 1971. And in the book, he lists his 12 rules for radicals, and you seem to have a pretty good handle on them. Number 5 is most poignant and oft put into play on your page here. Rule number 5 says, ridicule is man's most potent weapon. There is no defense, and it's almost impossible to counterattack ridicule. Also, it infuriates the opposition, who then react to your advantage. Of course, it's quickly followed by rule number 6. A good tactic is one your people enjoy. I joined your page many, many years ago, back when I appreciated you as Mr. Sulu in the original Star Trek, and I was a huge fan of seeing a Captain Sulu motion picture. After a few years, you started to get much more outspoken about your politics, which is just fine, as everyone has an opinion and a point of view. I felt empathic passion when you spoke of the American-Japanese internment camps. I felt with you and your family. I will say that you've grown much more caustic over the years. You and Bobby De Niro have gone off the deep end, casting aside any manner of civility and common sense, traveling deep into that dark land of bitter nastiness. I only stick around your page to see where people who have grown, old and bitter go to spread their vehemencies. And back to my point, your incorporation of Alinsky's rules for radicals is plainly and transparently evident, and you've got your sycophantic followers joining in, hook, line, and sinker. Again, George, or George's handler, in your original post, you're contending that Biden's medicated up State of the Union address proves he is not aging badly, nor confused or incoherent. You go on to contend that he is a high-functioning POTUS. However, what you're not mentioning is the fact that Mr. Herr stated that Joe Biden is not innocent or non-prosecutable of stealing official documents over the years and stashing them in his garage, 2 homes, a deserted restaurant, and other places, but that despite his
restaurant? I didn't hear that one.
Yes.
Okay.
But that despite his not being cleared of these charges, they chose to not prosecute based on the fact that he is an old man, aging ungracefully, who many times during the interview was found to have memory lapses, incoherencies, and confusion. So, if, as you contend, Biden is aging just fine, is not confused, has no mental lapses or incoherency, as his State of the Union address obviously proved to us, he is then capable of standing trial and facing charges on this document scandal, right? So if he is competent to be POTUS, would he then be competent to face charges and stand trial? Conversely, if he is indeed incompetent, confused, and incoherent, then Herr's findings and decision to not prosecute are justified, right? Which is it, George? As if you'll actually answer instead of your sycophants. Is he competent or not? So, that's the kind of stuff.
Did you get any replies to that?
Nothing.
Yeah,
I get people occasionally like what I say, but usually you can tell, I can see all your sick ass Trump orange followers all liked your post. It's like, really, that's the best you got?
So no real responses. Just
no responses to any of that.
Well, I have to give you credit, and knowing you and your literary propensities and peccadillos, that was extremely well written and worded. A bit on the long side, because
and I was feeling very Professor Bauer with taint of JP.
You had a flow of the professor and a taint, of JP.
Definitely.
I will say one thing for the trio of us right here. Ain't one of us masters of brevity.
Oh no. We the three of us really should the club name should be TLDR. Too long, did not read.
Too long, did not read.
Or the loquacious verbosity.
Right.
There
Well, did you see speaking of Bobby De Niro? Did you see his whole
What an
thing where he came out and joined the Biden campaign speech?
Yeah, he did.
I saw him at the courthouse yesterday.
That was.
Oh my God!
Jesus.
This guy was sitting there and being like, "You understand? We're just going to get a dictator who's never going to leave office, and he's just going to stay there, and he'll never leave, and he'll never leave."
Bobby, I got news for you. He left already
leave.
Once before,
right? So. Yeah. And he put up kind of a stink about it, and maybe wasn't super.
You know what he sounded like? He came across like somebody's old grandpa, which is what he is. Guy's in his mid-80s. Came across like an old grandpa who, out of one side of his face, is going, "Get your little asses off my grass," and on the other side of his face, complaining about politics. And he didn't make a single case out of anything he said. It was
all conjecture. There was opinion. Yeah,
it was a repeat of the curated narrative that's been put together for people who want people to think that way.
Exactly.
That's my whole point about this bullshit of woke. I mean, woke has several different levels, but it's all kind of in the same container. Mm-hmm. You have this neo-progressive, neoliberal ideology that is somewhere under this umbrella called the left. And in that umbrella, you have all these different delineations. You've got all the different isms, the communists and the socialists and the fascists. And what's interesting is they're using all of this bucket of bullshit, and they're trying to throw it over the wall to the people that they don't like and accuse them of the very same things that they are doing.
Right.
And they've been doing this for a couple of decades. And so what you see is stuff that's not well thought out. It's emotional anger and frustration based. There isn't anything about how do you fix the problems that they whine and piss and moan and complain about. There's only, we don't like this, we don't like it now, and it must change now. That is never a strategy for any kind of success that's let alone definable, let alone repeatable.
Let me ask you on that note, Professor, your earnest, sincere take on this. Do you think, because we hear it all the time, it's becoming cliche, and JP, you can pitch in on this too.
Will I actually be able to get a word in edgewise? I don't.
Maybe if he finishes after this. Here's the question: we hear all the time that the American people have grown wise to this, that they're all becoming a little smarter about the way this is all working. This is where maybe the social media and all of this is coming out on the positive end, is that people are more informed. They're seeing through it, and they're starting to really tire of this stuff overall. And that's why you're not seeing Trump get plowed under right now by the public. They're more and more, they're seeing what's going on with him, and more they're saying, we don't like this, and we don't like where things are. Your opinion, Professor?
I'll make this short because I know that JP is going to have some long-winded something or other that we won't read. So I think it goes back to the fundamental thing that the theme that I've been mentioning, as far as, and you were talking about during the show with this definition of woke. The problem is that it doesn't work. It is a momentary weaponized abuse of language and emotions that people have used in order to get the reaction that they're looking for. Mm-hmm. The problem is while it's definable, it's not repeatable or sustainable because of its own weight of stupidity and just complete lunacy. Yeah. So I think, to your point, to your question, are people kind of waking up? I think there's a mixture of it, and it basically starts at the fundamental level of how we function. And that is, there's this common sense thing that happens within our consciousness and our humanness. In other words, common sense to me is something where you see something and you go, okay, that makes sense to me. Whether, and that there's a commonality of it, right? You got to break down those two words and separate them. But the way that they're used, there's a regular commonality of something that occurs that people generally agree on. And at a minimum, you feel you resonate with. Well, the majority of this crap that they've packaged up into nice little balls of fart pebbles and are tossing over the fence. I mean, all of them, people have been hit by so much of it that the common sense, or I guess in more fundamental terms, the bullshit meter.
Yes.
Everybody's bullshit meter is pegging on the regular, and they're not used to that. And they're looking at, in fact, a lot of people's meters are broke, but for the most part, everybody's meter is pegging in the red on a regular basis. People are stopping and go, why does this always seem like it doesn't make any sense? Why is this always so noisy? Why is this always so painful? Why are these people always in my face? Why has my language changed? Why has all of the things that I grew up with all of a sudden been turned 180 degrees and or completely trashed? What's going on? My reality and the commonality of my reality that I inhabit and I've enjoyed with many other carbon-based meat suits for decades has been completely disturbed. It's been disrupted. They have tossed a whole bunch of crap into the reality that we all used to inhabit. So, short summary, common sense has been kicked off, and we are seeing the rise of the pissed off peeps.
Yes.
And it's organic. And it's organic because, going back to the first premise, this stuff is so stupid. And it's so out of bounds of any kind of common sense that it by itself, it's crumbling and imploding under its own weight.
Yeah. And
that is part of the hope when I came on and said I bring good tidings of great joy and future predictions. We are right now, the dumpster fire is just a big, it's in the back alley. There's all kinds of people who are trying to push it out onto the street and get in the way of the traffic and everybody going about their lives. And those dumpster fires are running out of fuel. They can't put any more in it because they've thrown everything that they had into it. So we're seeing the smoldering embers of something that's in decay and decline and is destroying itself. And that to me is a very positive thing. It's unfortunate that we've all had to dance around these dumpster fires, but it was necessary because you had to let that which shouldn't be so that everybody can see the absurdity of what it is on their own, instead of being told, hey, you don't want to follow these idiots with all this ideology. They're crazy. Well, that's not going to work because that's what they're doing.
The outspoken news media opinionists, the MSNBCs and the others like it, the CNNs, you're finding that a lot of these people are, even now, the last few weeks, I've noticed, especially as a result of this trial, they're all like, this is not working the way it's supposed to work.
Doesn't make any sense.
Even they are coming out and saying this is not right. And they haven't totally stepped over, it's like watching a Bill Maher, who I think is just a closet conservative anyway. I saw him. He comes up with his very conservative isms, but then makes a point of saying Trump is this and that and the other thing. And, I just want to look at him and go, you don't believe that. You're saying that because you have to keep your audience. And so whatever. So,
well, Scotty, to your point, and in using Bill Maher as an example, one of the things that's happening, I think, in the minds, and we're seeing this, is Bill Maher, he might have, I think he's more center than he really is.
Yes.
I remember the original show he did, Politically Incorrect. And I loved it. He didn't sound like, like he was brainwashed or anything during that time. And it's very much like Dennis Miller, who I really respect and his views and his wit and wisdom. But Bill Maher also, in his recent shows when he was on Gutfeld and then he was
saw him on Gutfeld.
Whoa, he went on Gutfeld?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Gutfeld was going to push his book.
Oh, yeah. Good stuff.
Wow. I'm going to have to look that one up.
I think he was on Megyn Kelly as well.
Yeah,
so he's
Megyn
out on
Kelly.
the book tour. And one of the things that he has been exposed for is not being informed. He actually believed that the Fine People hoax was true.
Yes.
The Fine People statement. And it's actually a hoax.
From Charlottesville.
I think it was Megyn Kelly's show he was on. And she said, here's the transcript. And he had never read it.
Yeah.
That's right.
But he had been pumping that for and believing it, but he was ignorant. Ignorant being uninformed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So part of what we're seeing also, in my opinion, is Bill Maher being that example of it. It's not only they've been told what to think, and it's been carefully crafted to focus on the emotion of fear and frustration and, the whole FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right? So they've done that, but it's also missing the information that would counter it or at least balance it as it relates to the reality of what actually is. So there's a huge missing chunk of information in the minds of those that have adopted what to think. And you see it on both sides, but there's a very acute side of it. And I'll drop this out and maybe we'll either get banned or I'll get canceled by the ladies in the chat, but I'm going to drop this one.
Do your best.
There is an obvious pattern that I have seen within the people that have adopted this neo-lib progressive ideology. And we've seen it where it's been implemented in things like the DEI and the ESG and the EIEIO. There is, when you look at who is involved, who is at the head, who's providing the energy and the noise for these causes and these weird, incomprehensible nonsense things about reality and how we should inhabit it, it's women. And the majority of the women that are doing this are in their 30s to 50s. So a lot of them in the 20s as well. But these women are the ones that are pushing this stuff. And they're the ones pushing the men on that side of that belief system, taking them from alpha to beta males, turning them into women, having this whole ideology of we want this because we are the oppressed women of the world. And there's a term that some people are using out there called the awfuls, AWFL, affluent white feminist liberals, female liberals.
Oh my God!
I know of the awfuls.
And I tell you, the more I watch and I look around and I just look at the data, who's out there, who's on the campus, all the stuff with the Gaza thing.
Yeah,
I mean, when you see the protesters, it's a bunch of women.
It is.
When you go to these, all these different, you go to the colleges. What happened to Harvard and MIT last year, or this year? Women. Look at the prosecutors of the Trump trials. 3 out of 4 of them are women, and they happen to be African American women. Now, I'm not saying anything particular about any generic race or gender. I'm just looking at the data. How is it that the majority of these ideologies and all of this noise and havoc and chaos and consternation, there seems to be women at the top and women throughout that are pushing this? And I think that and again, if you look at what is the most effective tool to influence and persuade humans, is the emotion of fear. And fear and emotion they're the two most powerful, the two most effective, That's what was used with the pandemic. That's what was used for 9/11. That's what was used for XYZ and EIEIO. They're all
Also,
fear oriented.
PDQ.
What's that?
Right.
Also PDQ.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. XYZ.
Now, and
PDQ.
so my point is that there seems to be an attack on our women, and our women have been attacked by people that we need to get removed from the process and let the women free themselves up again.
Well,
Women have been under attack under this
think
ideology that have been giving them the wrong. They're emasculating men, and regardless what you think about transhumanism or anything else, men need women and women need men. That's just the way it works. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier, growing up. All of the isms, all of the common sense that we all had when we grew up were based on that combination. Men and our birth rate is taking a complete dump. Look at all of the different things that are going on around that. Why is our birth rate declining? Well, women who are pushing this stuff are making men just say, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to go and get involved with that mess. And then they yell at the men for not wanting to be with them. And you go, but can you stop for a second and realize that there's the very simple thing. Men are simple. We don't think anywhere near as much as women think we do. We have our box, our nothing box that we go into where there's nothing in there, and we don't want to be disturbed while we're in our nothing box. But outside of that, we're real simple. We're designed to protect, to provide, and to propagate. Okay, and that's what we do. It's our inherent nature. Well, all of that's been turned upside down. So men are now confused as hell. And then the women are looking at them going, you need to do this for me, and I deserve this, and all this. And you go, oh, my God, this is not something that men want to be engaged with. And the last point I'll leave it with, the trend of what I said earlier.
Yeah.
There seems to be young men who are leading the change back. There's a bunch of this. I don't know what gen they call them. I've lost track.
Well, I think they're
young men are pushing back, and they want to be men. They don't want to be women. End of rant.
I think you bring up an interesting topic. Point with it being an attack on our women, but really, if we think back to Yuri Bezmenov's interview. TV interview back in the early 80s where he kind of revealed everything related to what the plan was. Honestly, I'm thinking what we might really be seeing is an attack on American men through women that started back in like the 60s and 70s with the Russians because they were still butthurt over the fact that we dropped fake extra large condoms all over Russia from aircraft to make all the men and women think that American men were all insanely well endowed. I think that's what it is. If I'm
just on that note about
it's just a butthurtedness, and it's
just as a note on the condom thing, that the I think it was some Muslims that invented the condom back in the 1600s, and in the 1800s the British improved it by removing it from the goat first.
Okay.
Jesus Christ.
So elaborate, Professor.
I'm just trying to give the Brits some credit for.
Hold
something.
on, wait. Pan that camera around the desk. I want to see where the handle of whiskey is in the cup.
Yeah, I think it's right here.
Right, just
off camera,
just out of frame. Right here.
Unfortunately or fortunately, that bottle was drained long ago, and it's in need of replacement. But
oh Lord, yeah. Well, listen, you there's a lot of things you kind of. I wouldn't say you're wrong about it. It's all interesting stuff to think about. I do think that there are not necessarily. I don't know if I'd necessarily put things as an attack I think like on women, like you were talking about, or even an attack on men through women, like I was joking about. I think it's more of an attack on American society through a medium that men will respond to.
What medium?
Women.
Well,
women have. I would say if we're going to go, track along with the things that you said and the explanations and down that topic, I would say that it's less of an attack on women and it's more of an attack on society and culture, exploiting women as a tool, because they're going to impact the men. That within men there is a weak point for women.
Strata to mind.
Yeah, right. It's you're using it. It's just the weapon of choice.
Well, yeah, but
there's a disaffected part of the population, because whether the things about glass ceilings, the various things within society, so you have a trigger point in there that you can tap into a frustration, and you can utilize and manipulate those individuals with a frustration and get them to affect the other part of the population.
It's all psychological. It's all psychological, but what you're saying, if I understand you correctly, there is something larger at play. There is, by all means, Sarah.
Yes, society, roll them up.
Yes, Sarah, come on, get in here. Balance the estrogen level in here, because I'm thinking that JP get a little limp wrist on us here.
No, I'm not getting limp wristed on you, and it's not anybody here. I say that you're probably compensating. You're probably compensating and putting on a bigger show because you're feeling insecure on some.
I have never been.
It's okay. We can talk. We can talk, man. You need to look. It's just us guys here, man. We can have an honest conversation.
Well, we're going to save a lot of that we don't have to go right this moment, even though it's after 11. But I think Friday night, if everybody here on screen right now is available, we should do a little repeat of our jugs.
Oh, Lord.
Boys measuring bottles?
Yes.
Something like that, yeah. I'm at a disadvantage because half of my stuff was packed up.
Bottle.
Yay,
Sarah.
I've been listening.
Uh-oh.
Did you catch my Lysistrata reference?
It's about time you showed up, Sarah, because I didn't know how much more bullshit I could throw out on top of the professors to draw you into the conversation.
That's a nice try, JP.
By the way, in case anybody doesn't know, I've only mumbled it twice. You had me thinking, Professor, of Lysistrata, play written by Aristophanes, ancient Greek, and it was about how it's an ancient Greek comedy. I think it was written during the Peloponnesian Wars or about the Peloponnesian Wars, but it was about a society like Sparta, who the way their women stopped the warring was they told the men that they would withhold sex from them until they did what the women wanted.
Yeah.
And it was a comedy. I saw it at a little place in Minneapolis, 30 years ago plus, at a place called Theater in the Round. And it was very well done. And they played up the comic parts, the men walking around with boners beneath their togas and things like that as the play progressed. And it made the comedy even more poignant. I don't know what they used for props back in Aristophanes' day, but that was the reference I was making while you were talking.
So Sarah, are you? You said you were listening. What and how would you like to correct what I said?
And you're on.
Wait, mute the professor.
Sarah.
give me a minute to gather my thoughts. I mean,
Wait, are you eating a jar of peanut butter?
I'm eating peanut butter. I can't talk.
He's
but
eating a big
Professor
jar of
needs to
peanut
be
butter.
muted.
There you go. Dinner of champions there. Peanut butter and...
Well, I think, and as usually it's down to me to get to the main point of the entire conversation after all this meandering and
That's because we respect your opinion and we want you in here to give it. We lure you in with our meandering because we know that's the only thing you'll respond to.
We do that on purpose, yes.
Oh, that's what it is.
So you sit over there and going, oh my God, I have got to go in there.
Yeah, that's why I don't know. That's why I'm not in. I don't do Cam because there's too much eye rolling. So as far as okay, but I mean, as far as everything is concerned, it's and for whatever made up metric that you have decided that for your interpretation of the data as it is, right?
Ooh, she's getting good.
Yeah.
It's like you said, and I'm going to use your words, that it's all over the place. It's something that encompasses both. So if you get away from the blame game, what is it? What is the common factor? The common factor, and we're seeing this through generations. I see it now more as I'm getting older, and the new generation is coming up, and I have the feeling like they don't know how to do anything. Yeah. The loss of the ability to do work and have certain ethical values and all this stuff. It boils down to education. What are these people being taught? We say these people don't have common sense. Where do they get common sense? Where do they experience common sense? So if you want somebody to be sensible, they have to teach it. Because we've seen what happens when you leave these particular animals on their own and whatever ideas that they come out. And for me, I mean, there's the major point of frustration, at least for me, it's like, yes, there are people who say this won't work. I'm not happy with this. I'm not happy with that. They need to also apply, say, okay, if this isn't working, what's going to work? And anytime that anybody puts an idea out there, you come across people who will immediately, shoot it down. Shoot it down. There's always going to be, for every action, there's always an opposite reaction. Say, oh, that's stupid. Oh, this is a terrible idea. But at least they're trying. At least they're trying, which is a lot that can be said for, the majority of the population. If they're not happy about, like in politics, a way a bill is done, change it. Put up your own. Well, how do you foresee, the country being run? And then there's also a point of laziness.
I can tell you.
Oh, you have one opinion, but
I have opinions.
Yeah. And it's a kind of laziness because, having the complex issues that we have in our world, these are not easy, quick fixes that can be fixed in, a couple of years.
Right.
They require, intelligence, sometimes wit, sometimes creativity. Where's the creativity?
Simla?
Yeah. So how are we supposed to better ourselves? We idolize people who actually go the distance, like, Elon Musk or, whoever, Jeff Bezos or, whoever, who are the inventors, the innovators. And we have to kind of use our own brain to contribute to society. We can't rely on Elon Musk to, create rockets so we can escape the planet.
What I find from Elon Musk is he generally confirms some of the things that I think. So
right.
I don't look to him for my opinions, though.
Right. But I mean, majority of the way people vote, it's like the prominence of celebrities saying who they're going to vote for. Why don't you think for yourself on who you're going to vote for, rather than Robert De Niro is supporting Biden? It's like, oh, I should vote.
Yes, Suzy Q. The professor does a lot of puff passing.
Yes, he does.
I mean, even like the past couple days, I mean, I was even sick of watching the news. I mean, they were running stuff about the Trump trial during Memorial Day. That really offended me. That offended me. Because
why can't we go back to the
wasn't
good
like they were
days?
doing anything on the
War
weekend
movies on Memorial Day.
as far as what was important. As far as what is important, I mean, we have a lot of the world does not stop with, you know, the trial. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in the background that doesn't get attention. It's certainly the attention it certainly needs until it blows up in our face. They said, "Oh, what happened?" You know,
right? And that's like it's like that with critical stuff, Sarah. Like really critical stuff, and it's kind of it's appalling at how that happens. I mean, look at all this stuff with China. That kind of was swept under the rug until recently, relatively, that it all blew up in our face, and now everybody's like, crap, panic. Like,
what do we do now?
We just knee-jerk react to everything. We let it build and build and build, and then we knee-jerk react.
Yeah, it's like you say, we're retroactive rather than being proactive.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah, could you elaborate a little bit more on what your comment about being lazy? What do you think is going on there? What is it, and where do you think it's coming from?
That's a knock on me because I haven't unpacked my house yet.
No.
And he's wearing the same clothes he moved in.
I'm giving you a week, JP. I'm giving you a week.
Yeah, good luck with that. Jesus. You gonna come out and help?
Why not?
Uh-oh.
I'm actually flying.
She'll whip you into shape.
DC in the morning, so.
Well, DC's a long way from St. Louis.
So, Sarah, where do you think this laziness is coming from?
It's apathy. And a lack of curiosity about the world. The idea of passing the buck, that someone else is going to take care of it. You know, it's like we said with it's like you were talking earlier about gender. You know, back in the 50s and 60s. You know, I think early World War I or World War II. The men went off to fight the war. Women went into the workplace, and guess what? They liked the workplace. They like doing that versus, you know, staying at home and, you know, cooking all day and having babies.
Raising kids.
Oh, look, after us guys going and being back-to-back World War champs, look, we're still tired, okay? Like, we just...
You're not the only one. You know, the way we group ourselves, it has to be based on shared values. What are our shared values that we're getting? Because otherwise, if we don't share the values, then why are we here?
Yeah.
Why don't we, you know, form another group somewhere else?
Yeah.
What does it mean to be American? You know, what does it mean to, you know, have a satisfactory life? Whether some people believe it's, you know, to have kids, some people believe they can have it all, have work and kids. You know. Have the ability to build wealth and security for themselves rather than rely on somebody else to do it for them, which they may or may not fail at doing. Which, you know, it's not a take, but you know.
Well, so are you saying that there's diversity? Are you saying that there's diversity in the lifestyle options and choices that one has?
There's diversity. I mean, there's always options, but whether those options are feasible is a different issue.
Well, for the individual is what I'm saying. Is every individual, if I hear what you're saying, everybody's got their own proclivities, peccadillos, preferences, biases, and because that's just how we function. And all of those things have been, all of them have been twisted and turned into meaning the opposite of what we actually experience. So it's like the same thing with the word offend and judge. You can't offend someone and you're not supposed to judge somebody. Well, I'm sorry, that's the way the mind works. And if you want to try to change the fundamental system and process of how we think and screw with it, then you're going to end up at some point with a mess because it's not going to work in the system. Going back to the other stuff I was saying earlier. But so what I'm hearing you say is that the apathy that is out there where people are just, well, let's explore that a little bit more. Apathy, what are they apathetic about? Are they apathetic about their lives, about their position, their goals?
What are they? All of the above, even the pressure of, okay, I'm going to go out and solve world hunger. That's a monumental task, and people won't even take the first step. Most people won't take it. Said if I'm going to everything seems so insurmountable. It's like we talked about earlier about swallowing an elephant. Am I able to solve world hunger? No. By myself? No. I mean, I can do something in my local area. I mean, that's more manageable versus trying to address everything all at once on a global scale.
So yeah, you're talking about an extreme of a goal with not having any rational measurement of the reality of that. You can't. What I think it's a different way of framing it, I guess, is where a lot of the problems are. If you feel like you want to do something about global hunger, then you want to do something about it. To say that you want to go cure it, that's probably a bad choice of words in a frame, because it's going to get you locked into an untenable, unrealistic
I was just
approach.
going to say.
Well, that's fear, though. I mean,
no, it's not fear. That's just reality.
Only way we can tackle those things on a much wider spread basis is locally. We've got to keep promoting that local here, local there, local there, local there. Well, and you're all geared toward doing the same thing.
And the axiom for that is think globally,
act locally.
Yes,
yeah, I was just going to say that.
Yep. Or invest in insect meat. So
it's already in the peanut butter, so it's nothing.
Yeah, the grasshoppers were tasty, dude. I'm just going to say,
extra crunchy.
Actually, it was pretty creamy and smooth. It was
That's like my son just got a pet python.
Oh God!
A white python. It's only about this long right now.
Just remind him, Scotty, when it gets bigger, and he's all like, "Oh, cute! It's wanting to curl up with me." No, it's measuring him to see if he can consume him.
Can I get my mouth around that?
That's exactly what they're doing.
So I took the kids. We all stopped off. Rainey and I had the kids, and we stopped off at the local hardware store, which has a pet store department in it. It's got lizards and snakes and mice, of course, and rabbits and grasshoppers and
you gotta feed them.
Things. Yeah, and my one little girl was like, "Oh, look at that cute little mice! I want to get some mice, Dad. Look, they're only $2.95 each." And I'm like, "Cool." And Flynn is, of course, like, "Oh, $2.95. That's the cheapest one." So let's see. The snake only needs to eat once a week. We give him a mouse, and she's like, "No, I'm not buying a mouse so you can feed your snake." And then it started a whole thing. But we're like, tasty furry critters. And she goes, "Look how soft they look." I go, "Yeah, it doesn't tickle his throat so much when he swallows them."
Jesus. So, you just sat there and antagonized.
Oh, we all antagonized. So we had a good time with it.
Those poor kids.
There is such a thing as karma.
We went to when my daughters were young, 9 or 10. I was in the midst of the custody situation with them, which took 1.5 years to get accomplished. But they were coming to my house on the weekends during that period, and they had a pet rat. And it's a woman I had gone out with a few times, and she was a prosecutor for the city of Minneapolis, and she had these rats, these rare silver blue, and she gave me one. "Would you like this?" "Yeah, I think my kids would like that." And they loved that rat. But then the rat had babies, and then there were all these babies, and we had to go down to the lizard store and get baby mice. I mean, the little ones. They weren't even furry yet.
Feed the rats?
A whole bunch of not for the rats. I'm sorry. We had what did we have that we were feeding? What am I mixing up there? Because we had to go get little mice to feed something.
Cockroaches?
You must have had a snake. No, because we got crickets for one of the lizards that we had. And we must have had a snake because we had to go get baby mice. Oh, no. I take that back. I'm messing up my memory. We ended up having like 22 rats in a big aquarium. Every time we turned around, there was a new litter. We're like, these are going to be deformed and retarded because their brothers and sisters all mating with each other. So we scooped up all the little baby rats in a box and brought them down to the lizard store. That's what it was, the other way around. And I said, now. And I looked at my girls, like, we're going to feed this to the snakes at the lizard store? And I said, yes. I said, Simba, it is the great circle of life. And I said, you love that movie. Here's how it works. And, can we drop the next one in? Sure, you go right ahead. So it was.
Seems like it's more like a lesson in eugenics.
Or something like that. So, yes. The eugenics wars. Python don't belong in America. They're taking over the Everglades. Shame, says Susie.
I agree. I agree.
I guess I could agree with that. I don't know anything about that.
You don't know anything about? You don't know about that?
No, I've never heard that. They're taking. I didn't know they weren't indigenous to the Everglades.
Oh God, no! Like people just are like, this is too big, and they release them, and then
oh wow,
they do really, really well.
Or slither.
Yeah. It's right up there with all the urban legends about people releasing baby crocodiles that get too big into the New York sewer system.
Oh yeah. That's a basis for some horror movies. Yeah, the 27-foot alligator that's been growing down there for 30 years.
That's how you end up in Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. Well, you know what? On this
and
amazing note of feeding lizards and snakes with baby mice.
How did we get here?
How did we get here? Yes. We're going to call it for tonight. But Sarah, I want you to get your jug of hooch ready for Friday night.
Oh, I won't be able to come Friday.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was going to say you could join us boys in our alcohol-induced intelligentsia.
Well,
talk.
I don't believe Sarah partakes, so she's going to have to be the DD for the
should be the designated driver. Yeah,
the referee.
Yeah, well, actually, I think it'd be the DM, the designated moderator.
There it is.
Yeah, I don't do well with power. So
goes right to your head, kind of thing. Yeah.
Oh God. Okay, we need to stop that because then I'm going to make it a joke and I'm going to regret making it because it's late and I'm tired.
What's that joke, JP?
Nope.
He's like, nope, not doing it.
See, there is a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier.
Yes,
an emasculated JP.
Emasculated.
Oh,
yes.
He didn't have the stones to drop the joke.
No, so you know what? It's not about not having the stones to do something.
He's going to excuse it now. Listen,
it's about having the respect for my friend to not throw out the joke.
I don't think it's that. It's basically a cost-benefit analysis on what's going to be more advantageous.
Yeah, his ROI on dropping that one was not good.
Wow, thanks, Sarah. Thank you for stripping down my respect for you as my friend to just being cost analysis. Wow.
Perfect.
I can't even right now.
All you listeners out there, I hope you've learned a lesson with this tonight, and that you can take some of this material home with you, and cherish
it. Any of it on your shoes?
Crush it to your bosom. Make it work for you. And thank you for that, Sarah and JP. That's been amazing.
I mean, the lesson should be everyone should learn to build up their own bootstraps and have curiosity about the world and how it works. And
boom, I like that.
Make it happen.
And be not only having a curiosity about it, but being willing to have the will to say, hold on, wait, what is this? Let me look at all angles and be objective. I think that's another problem that we have, that we don't have the will to be objective. And,
it all boils down to education. We have to learn how to, it's like a bad Pavlovian experiment. That's, we need to encourage these good habits of, thinking for ourselves and being creative and,
and season 10,000 of Earth.
Well, the thing I think is you what you should start with is just questioning your curiosity. What are you curious about? And go question it, explore it, see what the hell it is.
Oh, that is totally not what I took from questioning your curiosity. Glad you. Because you said question your curiosity, and to me that just sounds like, why am I curious? I don't understand. Why do I want to know these things?
It's exactly my point.
It's curiouser and curiouser.
The more you question your curiosity, the more you step into your field of imagination. And depending on what kind of soil you've got and what you got growing in that field, you can come up with all kinds of cool stuff. But that's where the root of how we function is. And to Sarah's point, be curious about the world around you. Be curious about your engagement, your participation in it. And don't just adopt everything that you've been told is the definition of that reality. Yes. Explore it yourself. Yeah. That's where that questioning your curiosity fires up your imagination, and all of a sudden you're exploring and discovering shit you didn't know was there. But if you let other people,
that's why I've always said,
then you're not going to find it.
And then you're the professor talking about the big revelation.
That's why I question the things
that never manifests. Nobody ever says what the big revelation is.
What is the big revelation? It's coming.
No, it's coming, JT. It's the great reveal, not the great revelation, because the revelation is a part of what's going on in the reveal. It's all the reveal of all the shit that, like we've been talking about tonight.
There it is.
There's a great reveal that all the bullshit we've been shoved down our throats and up our asses for the last decades, and in particular, very acutely in the last 5 years, is all bullshit.
Yes.
And everybody's going, I'm thinking that there might be something wrong here that I need to go question, sort out, and figure out. And the only way
I feel like this is the straightest answer on what the reveal is that we've gotten in ever.
Let's see. So far, I've learned in the last 5 minutes of the show, I've learned to question my curiosity and to reveal the revelation. So there we go. It's been repetitive redundancies tonight. So, all right, we're gonna call it right there. Jeremy Hansen, welcome. We're just wrapping it for tonight. Glad you can make it in for a little bit. And Sarah, thank you for being here and lending an
I regret it now.
Female wisdom,
a voice of reason.
She's like, I could have been eating chips and watching
Sarah. Sarah, you just need to run into everything being like, I regret nothing.
Yes.
You see, Sarah, you understand that the struggle is real. You know, when you bring the reason, then you regret it.
Yes.
Right.
It's like, I brought it, but now
I regret the reason.
And then you regret revealing the reveal because it's not this big thing that everybody thinks it is about.
It's pearls before swine.
Oh, it's what?
Pearls before swine.
There.
Nicely done, Sarah.
Love it. And
this is why we're friends.
There it is. All right, guys. All of you get out of here. Thanks for being here. Sarah, thanks for being here.
Okay. I'll
see you later.
Thanks,
JP,
Sarah.
see you,
Bye,
brother.
Sarah. Later, Scotty.
See ya. Professor, as always, thanks for being here.
My pleasure, my honor, and
see you Friday night.
Yep, it's always nice to come in and hijack a show, you know?
Absolutely. That's what it's here for. I'm going to go pee now.
There you go.
You just
see you, buddy.
See you later. Everybody else, thank you for being here. This was fun. I appreciate your presence here. Remember to hit that join button down below. Also, hit the like button. That helps me as well, and that doesn't cost you anything except a click. Hit the like button over in YouTube. That helps our show, our algorithms over there. And thank you for being here. I appreciate your presence. And you know what? We're going to be back on Friday night. And hopefully that'll be a fun show. And all come prepared for that. I think it'll be, we're going to have a compare your alcoholic beverage container night. So amongst other things. So we'll see you later. And I'm trying to think if there's any last words. No. Can't think of anything that's really overly important other than see you Friday. Live long and prosper.